Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the small medieval farmhouse. This is part 2 of the speed build. In part 1 I was creating the exterior and the floor plan, and now in part 2 I'm furnishing this little farmhouse and also the barn next door. And we are starting off with the kitchen, and as I already mentioned in part 1, the kitchen was first closed off by walls, but I found this was a little bit too cramped. It made the space look very small and very narrow, and so I opened up the walls by placing these columns and these spandrels to just make it look a little bit more open. I also sized up a base game range hood and placed these thick shelves from Get Together next to it. And the idea for this came from, I think, some pictures I saw on Instagram or Pinterest, because I think this is somewhat typical for older kitchens. I saw a lot of pictures of photos of old rustic kitchens which had these very big range hoods and then just some shelving units to the left and right of it to store things on it. You can see this coming together in a minute. I also was struggling a little bit with flaws disappearing, but I think I fixed it and it shouldn't be an issue in the build, which you can now download from the gallery. It's already up there, fully furnished, and I play tested it and everything should be functional. I'm placing the fridge here, I'm placing more decorations for the kitchen, and in a minute or a second, oh okay, it has happened. You notice all the clutter and debug objects suddenly appearing. It took me a lot of time to find all of them, and I didn't want to let it in because there's no interest in watching me scroll through debug for like 15 minutes, so I just cut this out. And here I'm using some little wooden thingies to create a little cutting board, and I love to do this because it's just nice to have a little cutting board as a clutter piece. And I also use one of the base game fish. You can just fish yourself in a game to decorate it, and I also use this knife from Jungle Adventure to make it look as if someone is about to cut this fish. And I love to use the fish for this because they don't disappear. Lots of the base game food in debug just disappears if you upload a lot or if you download it from the gallery, but the fish don't, at least as far as I know. I tested it a lot of times and I think the fish remain there, so they are great for decorations like this. And I'm just placing a lot of clutter in the kitchen. I just wanted to make it look lived in, and I just wanted to add lots of medieval looking stuff. I also added this little barrel, and many objects from cottage living came in really handy for all of this. I also realized that in the last video I forgot to mention some essential things. For example, where this lot actually is and some other information about this build. But before I come to this shelving unit I just placed here won't stay like this in the final version, because I thought because it's a shelf it wouldn't block the counter, but when I playtested it, it turned out it actually did. So I had to size it down a little bit and move it up a little bit, and then it actually worked. Of course I also had to readjust the clutter, but the shelf will still remain there and will just be a little bit smaller, but then the counter actually works and your Sims can cook in this kitchen. But let's go back to what I started talking about before this. So I forgot to mention some kind of essential things in the first part of the video. So first of all, what lot is this on? I also wrote it in the description, but in case you missed it, it's built on the Cottage am See lot in Windenburg. This is a 20 by 20 lot in the more rustic, foresty area or neighborhood of this world. And it's a really beautiful lot because it also has a lake nearby, which comes in really handy if you're living on this lot, because it's also an off-the-grid lot. So to have water for your bathroom, for example, you just need to collect some water from the world around you. And so it comes in very handy to have this lake nearby. And of course you can also go fishing and collect vegetables. There are lots of wild bushes around. And of course you also have a lot of vegetables and herbs in your garden, as you might have seen in the first part of the video. So you can really just provide for yourself, which is also very useful because I also enabled another lot challenge, which I think is called Simple Living, and if I remember correctly it came with Cottage Living. And with this challenge activated, you will have to have all the fresh ingredients to cook something, which is a little bit tricky. I tried it when I was playtesting this, and there was it was very restrictive, but I think it's also a fun challenge to try if you're trying to do some medieval gameplay. So I've already finished the kitchen more or less, and I'm now here in the dining area. I was a little bit struggling with this. I didn't really know how I wanted it to look like. It's just a lot trying around and figuring things out, as it often happens. Oh, I also went and got a new headset. I don't know if you can tell any difference from the first video. I think the audio is still not perfect at all. I think it's still could still be better. And now we do not have as many background noises, but now we've got some recording noises, I suppose. And yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed because I was really hoping this headset would work better. Maybe I just haven't adjusted it correctly. So I hope the audio is still a little bit better than it was in the first video. And I think at least it won't be so, I don't know, unstable, because in the first video I think my voice sounded very different in different parts of this video. So I think I fixed this, but it's still not perfect, and I really hope it's acceptable or it's better than the first video. So again, if you have any tips on how I could improve this, just please let me know in the comments, because I really hope this new headset would be the solution of all my problems. But apparently it's not just the hardware. Apparently I just also need to figure some other things out. Also, I feel I sound like I've got a cold or something, but this might not be the recording, but more me being not used to hear myself talking. Or it might just be both. I don't know, but we will have to deal with this for the near future. I know I could just put some ambient music over this speed build, but personally I prefer watching speed builds with voiceovers, and yeah, I would just like to create something which I would want to watch. So yeah, I'm still sticking to the voiceover. So here I'm just continuing furnishing the dining area and the living area, and it's really nothing fancy. It's very simple, it's very rustic. There's not a lot of comfort, so even in front of the fireplace there's just a chair and a stool, so nothing really cozy, but there's still some pieces of furniture where they can sit down and warm themselves at the fire. And here I'm just decorating this little side table. And here I'm just trying to cover up some of the modern looking stuff in the side table because it didn't quite fit in. Also, in a minute or so you'll see me decorating the fireplace with the herbs from laundry day, because I thought it would just be a nice thing to hang above the fireplace. Maybe the family put them up there to dry, and yeah, maybe they're also providing a good smell for the interior, or they're keeping insects away. I don't know, but I felt it just made sense to put them there, and I feel they look really nice, and I didn't really know what else to put there. I find it a little bit difficult to find wall decorations for this home, because yeah, what would medieval peasants have put on their interior walls? Probably not a fancy painting, but yeah, you will see later how I try to solve this for every room. And I think we are almost done with the living space and the dining room. I was also placing food bowls for the dog. The ones from My First Pet Stuff would have come in so handy here, because they are kind of shaped like a tree trunk, and they look somewhat like handmade, but I didn't really want to use this pack for this build, so we are going with some simple ones from Cats and Dogs. And here we are in the bathroom, and again the horse wrench pack would have been really useful because it has this great wooden bathtub, but I do not have this pack yet, so I had to go with the one from base game. It's my go-to bathtub if I'm trying to furnish something a little bit more old and rundown looking, and so I also used it here. I also put another one of these buckets there because yeah, somehow I have to get the water inside, right? I also just realized that I recorded for 7 minutes but didn't press the record button, so that was perfect. So I'll just do it again. So we are still placing some decorations above the bathtub, and we are going to place a sink in a minute. And of course there's no sink in the game that looks remotely medieval, so I just went with the one from Laundry Day because it looks very rustic and rundown, and I felt it was the best solution in this situation. For the toilet, however, I played around a little bit with the tool mod, and I rotated a table and placed it in front of the toilet to make it look like it was built in, so to make it look like an old earth closet. I'm not sure if it's called like this, but I just Googled it and this was the translation I found. So a built-in toilet, a very simple and rustic toilet, and I think it somewhat looks like it, like what I had in mind. It's not perfect because you can see a part of the table glitching through if you look at the toilet from above, but it didn't bother me too much because you really have to look from a rather specific angle to actually see this, so I didn't really mind. And yeah, I think in general it looks the way I imagined it to look like. And the bathroom is almost finished at this point, so I'm just going to place some more clutter, garbage bin, and also some stains and cracks on the walls, of course, because I placed them throughout the whole build and I just didn't show the whole process because it's so repetitive. And here we are finally in the parents' bedroom. And yeah, I was struggling a little bit with how to furnish this. I didn't really know what side tables to use, how to decorate it. I didn't know what bed to use. But in the end, it came together quite nicely. It has this blue bed, which is, I think, I think it's from Cats and Dogs. And I'm also placing this curtain right now, which I'll be removing in a second, but then in the end I just returned to this exact curtain. So yeah, I don't know why I thought I would place all of these small curtains because it looks really stupid, but I will change my mind in the end. And here I'm placing the side tables from Spooky Stuff, and I know this pack is really strange and I rarely ever use it, but the side tables have a perfect size and I really wish all the other side tables in the game would be just as small because they are just way too big to fit them in anywhere, but they have the perfect size. And I hope the Sims team maybe remembers that they are actually able to do small side tables. And here I'm just decorating the side. I know it's not super realistic for medieval peasants to have these sort of mirror. I think having a mirror would have been rather expensive. And of course, in this time period, so we are talking late Middle Ages, you wouldn't actually have been able to create such a big mirror that is so perfect and so clear. I think if I remember correctly, mirrors like that could only be pre-used like in the 19th century. But again, obviously this cannot be 100% historically accurate. If you're annoyed by this, if you really want to play some sort of decades challenge or something like that, you maybe want to delete things like that maybe do not fit quite so well in this time period. There's also this little notebook from Base Game Debug, which I saw someone else use this in some other speed builder use this in some video, and I thought it was a really nice idea because it's a very nice yeah, decoration piece. Oh, and here I'm trying to create a little bowl to which is supposed to look like Sims can wash with this. And I used a base game vase and put it inside of the side table, and then used some debug object also from base game, sized it up to create the bottom of this bowl. And I also do this again in the upper floor, so if you missed it now, you can see it again. And I think it turned out quite so nicely. It's slowly coming together. I placed these shelving units from werewolves and put some random stuff on it just to make it look a bit more lived in. Oh, I also wanted to say thank you so much to all the people who wrote nice comments on my first video and who showed so much support and so much encouragement. I was so happy to read these comments, and I'm so thankful to the people from the gallery who actually checked out my channel and who left so many nice comments and so many encouraging words. This really meant so much to me, and I'm so grateful that you actually took your time to just take a look at the video and the channel. And yeah, that was just very nice, and I'm just very touched by it. And here I'm just placing this cross-stitching basket so that they have some activity to do in their free time. And I'm also placing some more clutter pieces and small pieces of furniture. And then we are almost done with the parents' bedroom and move on to the upper floor. Here we are now on the upper floor. This is the daughter's bedroom. Obviously, any Sims could live in there, but I just had this idea that it would be for two teen girls who are not twins, so I thought the one of them would be a little bit older than the other one. But of course, you can play it however you want to. Sometimes I just have a very specific idea for a family living in a build. Again, I'm placing the same side tables because I love them, and I also love this torn cloth thrown over it. And I'll be adding some details in here which actually tell a little bit more about the character of these two girls. I didn't do this too much for the parents' bedroom, but here I thought it would be a nice idea. I also placed these chests to make them look like, clothing chests where you would keep some of your dresses. I think this is something that can be seen in older builds. And I'm adding two books under the bed on the right side because I thought maybe the older daughter had learned how to read from someone, but probably her parents weren't really into this and would consider it a waste of time because, like, she's not supposed to read. She's supposed to help them on the fields and help them with harvesting and everything. But she learned to read probably from some sort of relative and got in the possession of two books. And sometimes when nobody else is there, she's just secretly reading these books, but she's hiding them under her bed so that nobody would notice that she's spending time on this because she know her parents wouldn't approve and would consider it inappropriate for a girl like her to learn reading, and maybe not even her parents themselves can read really well, and so this is not something they consider a useful skill in their position. I also placed some plants in here because I literally cannot build anything in The Sims without plants. I know this is not, again, not very realistic, but I just love plants in The Sims. In real life, plants tend to die if I take care of them, but in The Sims, luckily, this is not how plants work, and so we are fine with placing as many of them as we want to. And again, I'm creating this little bowl so it looks as if they could just wash in their room with this simple bowl and put some water in there with this vessel I put at the side of it. This one's a debug one from Laundry Day. The other one I've used on the ground floor is from Cottage Living, but they are both very nice for this purpose. So I really love to use them in these occasions. As a bowl, I actually used to use the one from Base Game Debug, which is actually made of clay. The problem is that your Sims will just take this bowl and mold it like crazy, which is a little bit annoying. And to avoid this, I was trying to figure out a way I could build a bowl without your Sims being constantly distracted by it. This is the bed of the other sister, which I imagine to be the younger sister. This is why she gets this plushie. This is from Werewolves, and I feel it looks very handmade and very simple, so I thought it fit in this medieval build. And yeah, I imagined her to be younger and also a little bit more not childish, but a little bit more lighthearted, while the older sister's more into, like, she reflects more about her life and their life situation, and as I said, also secretly got into reading and maybe also learning how to write herself, while the younger sister doesn't really question how they live and still a little bit more of a child, you could say. Just decorated the side tables a little bit with some puppets or dolls from Jungle Adventure and with this wooden fish from Island Living because I thought this might be something their dad would carved or made for them. And he actually has or they actually have a wood carving table in this barn, and I really liked how this turned out. So I placed some debug wood pieces to cover up these more modern looking tools, and this was a super tedious work, and it's a little bit wonky in the end, but it still covers everything up, and I felt it looked quite nice. And you don't have these yellow plastic up there, and I just thought it was a nice idea. I also placed all these wood on the side, so this is where they store their timber, and I just placed a lot of different decoration objects and clutter to just make this look like a space where you just can craft and woodwork and create different things. As I also already mentioned in the first part of the video, the ground floor of the barn is an open space, so it's not actually closed off. This is also why the lighting is a little bit bad. But my problem was, as I already mentioned, that I couldn't find a fitting door for this. I wanted it to be an open door, but there was no archway that was big enough for this wall height, and I also couldn't find any barn door I really liked. So I just went with this opening, which is just makes this not a closed off room. So if you're annoyed by this, you can just draw a wall, you can just place any door in there, and then you should be fine. But I just didn't like how that looked, so I went with this. I also placed a lot of these debug fish traps or traps. It's from the cats and dog debug catalog, I think. And I just it made sense for this family to store these in there because they maybe use them for hunting and fishing, and it looked really nice to just place them there as decoration objects. I will also be placing a lot of wooden sculptures on one of the side tables to make it look as if they actually crafted them themselves. Maybe this is something they are selling on a market or are just using to make a living from. And it will still take me some time to get to this, but it will all come together in a minute. And of course, also this place is play tested, so everything is fully functional. Also the woodworking table, even with all the wooden decorations and cover-up pieces I placed on it, it's still fully functional and your Sims can actually work on it. So it's a functional space, and I think that's a nice thing. Also, we are getting a third expansion pack this year, and it's probably coming out in November. Yeah, probably November. It would make the most sense. And maybe we are getting an announcement next week. At least I heard many people speculate about this, and it probably also would make sense because they would probably release the packs sometime in late November. And I think it's common that an expansion pack gets announced like, I don't know, 1 month or 3 weeks before it comes out. So it would sound very, very likely that next week maybe they're going to drop some sort of teaser or even a trailer. And yeah, I'm really excited what it's going to be. So, of course, there are many speculations going on right now that it's supposed to be a Thailand inspired world and that there's supposed to be a city world or something. And yeah, of course, these are all speculations, but I'm very excited. I'm also a little bit nervous because it's the third expansion pack in this year, and obviously they have never done this before. So yeah, I hope they didn't rush anything and it's fleshed out and they just put enough effort in it. But yeah, I'm just very curious what is going to happen. And what do you think about it? Do you have any expectations or hopes for this new pack? If you want to, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'm just really interested to see what they're going to announce. I mean, the roadmap said neighborly expansion pack and get busy, so maybe more jobs, more hobbies, more apartments, owning real estate. It sounds like it could be really interesting, so yeah, I can't wait for getting to know more about this pack. So here I just rotated this decorative skull from werewolves to hang it on a wall because I thought it yeah would just add a nice touch to this barn, and who doesn't want to have a cowplant skull hanging from the wall? I just thought it was a very nice idea. And yeah, here I'm just placing these flower pots above each other as if they're just currently not used, but if the family is in need of more of them, they just can yeah go in the barn and grab some more of them. And we are almost done with the ground floor of the barn. I will just be adding some more details, swapping out these shelvings, but now we are already on the upper floor, and here I'm just placing more hay balls and straw balls because, yeah, as I already mentioned in the first video, this is just something that I really associate with barns. So you've got a lot of straw and hay, and these are actually also seats. So your Sims should be able to see this, at least on the one at the bottom. I think the others are all blocked, but they can sit on one of them. And I just added lots of food and supplies and stocks and everything they could possibly store in this barn. Also some more dried herbs and some of these onions, which are in the debug catalog in Cottage Living, and some of these space game pieces. So everything that I thought would make sense in a barn, which would make sense to keep there and store there. Also lots of details to make it like look like a really used space, like a space where a lot is going on. And this upstairs space is mostly decorative, so it's mostly just supposed to look great, but I didn't want it to be completely useless for gameplay. So I also added a game table or playing table from Get Together, where your Sims can actually play, I don't know, cards and Don't Wake the Llama. You know, the llama game. So your Sims can actually go up there if they just need a break from hard work. I imagined that it would maybe be a nice spot for the dog daughters to sometimes hide away and just chat a little bit and play cards. And I was really playing around a lot with debug objects because especially cottage living has so many nice debug objects which work just perfectly for a space like this. And I sized them to different sizes and just put them everywhere to make it look like it's really stuffed with supplies and stocks and yeah, everything you would need. And afterwards, after I already finished this video, I remembered that there's also the garlic from vampires. And because I love garlic, like I really do love garlic, I also place just a lot of garlic on the walls. You will see that as it is on the screenshots in the end. And overall, I really love how the barn turned out. I feel it has a very cozy atmosphere, so to say, so I would love sitting around in this barn. And it even feels very autumnal with all the pumpkins I added and all the autumnal colors, so it even feels fitting for the season, even though this is not an actually autumn-themed build. I'm just adding some more last touches, some more storage boxes, some more food like pumpkins, as I already mentioned, and just some more details to make it look even nicer, so to say. And yeah, it might just be my favorite part of this build, and I hope you like it too. I think I really have to come to an end with this voiceover now because it's already way too long and it's also getting quite late here. So before my neighbors start knocking at the walls, I'm going to wrap this up. We are already quite close to the end of this build. I'm just placing some more stuff. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching the second part of my speed build. If you like this build and you want to download it, you can find it on my gallery. My ID is LaTalpaVolante and the build is also playtested. It should be fully functional, so I hope you can just enjoy it if you decide to download it. If you want to follow me on my socials, my ID is the same as on the gallery, so also LaTalpaVolante. I'm on Tumblr and Instagram, though I'm far more active on Tumblr if you want to see some screenshots of works in progress, more details of my builds, or just some reblogs from really cool stuff other simmers make. You could just stop by if you want to. And yeah, with that being said, thank you so much once more. I hope the speed build wasn't too much of a mess. I wish you all a very pleasant day or night, and I hope to be back very soon with my next speed build. Thank you again, and bye!